Hi there and welcome to Flowster. My name is Trent. I am the co-founder of the company, and in this video I'm going to give you an orientation on how to use the software. So if you have just created a brand new Flowster account and you have not downloaded a done for you, or you've not purchased any of our done for you SOP templates, or you have not downloaded any of our free templates, when you log in, the screen is going to be blank like this. So let's assume that's the case. I want to walk you through. So at this point in time, you're going to do one of three things. You're either going to create a new folder, which is just a way of storing and organizing your SOP templates. You're either going to, step two is, or option two rather, is you could create a new SOP template, or you could download a free template into your account. So let's first of all download a free template into your account. So you'll go here, you'll click download, and you can change the name if you want to. If you don't want to, just click import. And voila, it will show up in your account. So now I want to show you how, and before we take the next step, I want to make sure that you understand the terminology of template versus workflow. And this has been explained in the email onboarding sequence, but just to be sure, let's cover it off right now. So a template is like the recipe for baking a cake, for a really simplistic example. As the head chef, you have the ability, if you've chosen to click, let me go back and show you that again. If you click on edit template, in other words, I'm going to alter the recipe for baking a cake. I'm the head chef, so I can go and change any one of these things that I want to. If I wanted to have this go above it, I could drag it there. If I wanted to delete this particular widget, I could do that, and I'll cover off what all the widgets and stuff are later on. I just want you to understand terminology. So this is the main recipe. Now, I can now execute a workflow. So what is the difference? And I can do that from here, or I can do it from here, same thing. So what's the difference? So let's say as the head chef, I have a sub chef, and I want the sub chef to bake my cake for me. So I am going to execute a workflow. We'll call it cake number one, and I'm going to assign it to Trent. And however you name this is completely and totally up to you. It is irrelevant, has no effect on software functionality or workflow functionality. It's just to make it intuitive for you. And then I could execute that workflow, and I could assign that workflow to Trent, and I could give it a due date of, and every workflow you should give it a due date, because if you don't, you'll just end up with a whole bunch of workflows that are probably never complete, and you won't get any reminders. And this is why when you assign the entire workflow and give it a due date, now Trent will receive an email saying, hey, you've been assigned to a workflow and it's due on February 22nd, and they'll get alerts at various points throughout that process. Now, if he worked with somebody else named Dave, and I wanted Dave to look after this one section of the workflow, I would pick, let's say Kane. I would click on Kane's name. In this case, I don't want to click on Kane's name because he's going to get an email and I don't want him to. So we'll just assume that I'm clicking on my own name, but you get the idea. And then I could give this step a due date and a due time, or just a due date if that's in the past. We don't want to do that. So the 27th, and then click on the little green checkbox over here. And now for that step, I'm also going to get an email notification. And if you want to be able to @mention other people, just like every other application out there, you can @mention, you can type whatever you want, and then when you're done, you click comment, and they will receive an email notification containing a link to that as well. So to just summarize that again, as a template is the recipe for a cake, and a workflow is each time I want someone on my team to go bake a cake. So hopefully that makes sense. Now, let's show you how to create a new template from scratch. So we're just going to call this demo. And now I want to explain to you what all these widgets are and what the interface is like. So by default, we give you 4 steps. You definitely do not have to use 4. You can delete them, you can add more, you can do whatever you would like. So typically in step 1, so let's say that this particular workflow is how to write a blog post. So write a blog post. So we'll say, let's make up the steps. We're going to be research topic And then step 2 would be create outline. Step 3 might be hire a writer, and then so add a new task. Step 4 would be to, so they're going to write it, and we're going to be proof, draft, post. You get the idea, and then we'll just make this really simple. We'll say publish. And if you wanted, you can add headings, by the way. So let's say that this is, we'll call this content creation, and then we'll go here and we'll add another heading and we'll call content promotion. And then here we might say, share on social. Okay, so now research your topic. So we have all these widgets that you can use. So let's say we'll put a text box on, and then we would write instructions. This is the part of the job where you do your research, blah, 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 blah. And maybe I want to take a screenshot of, whatever. So I'm just going to take a screenshot of Google as soon as my screenshot software decides it's going to work. Okay, so I'll take my screenshot. I'm just using Sketch to do this. And Sketch is moving in slow motion today, naturally, because I'm filming a video. And so I want to put that screenshot on here. So way over here, I'm going to choose image widget. And then now I can do that, or what I could also do is I can just literally drag my Sketch instead of doing the image widget. I can just drag it on. So I'll delete that image widget, and there's the image that I took. And if I wanted to mark that up with red arrows or whatever, I would have done that in Sketch before I put it on here. Now, if I wanted to create a video, I could put a video widget on there, and I can put my YouTube URL or my Vimeo URL, or I can upload the video. If I wanted to add a file to it that a user would download every single time that they're using this particular workflow, I can do that. And if I wanted to create a checklist of some kind, so step 1, step 2, oops, you get the idea. 2, I can't type today, step 3. Okay. And now, so let's say we've got an outline. So this is where, and this will make sense when I show you the workflow, but now I want the user to input information in. So I'm going to say that this is going to be the post title. I'm going to make that required. So that was a short text input widget. And this is a long text input widget. We'll say post outline, and they can type as much as they would like in there. And if I wanted to say, we'll take, let's say, reference links or link. So you'll see how that comes into play in a minute. And file input or data input, we'll just put those on so you can see what they look like. Okay, so let's assume that I've actually now completed the entire process. So I want to execute a new workflow, and I'm going to assign it to a writer named Trent. So when they come, they're going to research topic. It says, okay, so they're going to read this. They're going to read these instructions. They're going to look at this image, and then they're going to say, okay, I've done that, and I've done that, and I've done that. And by the way, best practices, checklist items don't, when you're creating your SOPs, make lots of steps and keep each step short, as opposed to having just one step and having like just scads of directions for one step. The longer each step is, the more likely someone will miss a portion of it. And that's why it's important to keep them short. But nonetheless, you can have these checkbox widgets here. I can say, well, I'm done that. I'm going to go on to the next one. So the post title, they're going to say this. So we'll say how to run Flowster. Okay. And so post outline is going to be, we're going to talk about the software. We're going to talk about the user. We're going to talk about the resource. You get the idea. Anything you want to go in there, and if there was a particular URL that I wanted to reference, and you can put as many of this widget on as you want. You just type in whatever it is you want, except I can't type today. They can upload a file if they would like. So let's just say, I don't know, we'll just pick some random file. So this file, the reason you would use this is this file would be something that would be specific to this particular workflow. So if this was a workflow for a blog post, maybe this is the featured image for the blog post. And then if the blog post was due by a certain date, we can put that date in here as well. So those are, as you become more familiar with the software, you'll get better ideas on how you want to be using all of those various widgets. Okay, so now that's how you create a template. So now let's go back to our templates page. You can see we've got a template called How to Write a Blog Post. We have an active workflow because that's what I was just showing you. We could archive the workflow. We can assign it to somebody else. We can print it, or we can actually go back and even edit the template. So when you're editing the template, let's just say we add one more step, and we'll just call it task 9. This button here, update active workflows. What does that mean? Well, remember, we already have an active workflow for writing a blog post. And now we've just updated the template, the SOP template. So we're saying, hey, do we want that active workflow or those active workflows to also receive the same update? Usually the answer is going to be yes, but that is entirely your call. So now when you go back to the workflow, you'll see that change is reflected there. Okay, so now let's assume that you had lots and lots and lots of workflows and you needed to find one. There's all sorts of ways you can find them. You could type in a search term, and then you can click on the little eye and it'll take you to the workflow. You could type in who they were assigned to, who they were created by. If a certain task on the workflow was assigned to someone, you could search by due date. You can see the progress. You've got various filters here. You can show how many rows you'd like to see. If you have scheduled workflows, they will show up here. All right, and finally, if you want to add members or remove members from your division, you would click on the division name here in the top right. That'll take you to this screen, and you can add a new member by clicking the button and entering their email and their name. And then you, after the fact, can decide if they're an admin, a member, or a guest. So what is the difference? An admin, as you might imagine, has all the control to do everything. They can add and remove users. They can add templates and delete templates, create templates, edit templates. Members can do all of the same things with templates, add, delete, create, edit, etc., but they cannot add and remove users. And then both of these are paid accounts. And then your guest account is for your virtual assistants or anyone else who's only going to be assigned a workflow. They can't edit a template. They can't delete a template. They can simply be assigned a workflow. And then if that's the case, you would choose that checkbox for those people. All right, so that's it. If you have any questions, please put them in the Facebook group.